Call the meeting to order for the organizational board meeting for Streetsboro City Schools, January 12th, 2023. We're starting at 5:31 p.m. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Bedford?
Here.
Mrs. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Fulton?
Here.
Mr. Grimm?
Here.
Mr. Violi?
Here.
Please stand for the pledge. Do we have a flag? Over there. There it is. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 2, election of officers. At this time, I would like to open the floor for requests for nominations for board president.
I'd like to nominate Tracy Campbell for president.
We have a first and a second.
Second.
You second.
Mr. Kiffer, we'll close the nominations, and if you can poll the board for a vote.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And then, do we do oath now?
Yes, do you know?
We
Yep.
do both? Okay. I'm new at this, so, you know. All new things, all the new things.
You have to go out front.
Picture time.
Don't let anybody do it.
I saw those.
I read it because it's easier. I can't remember things. Okay. Moving on to nomination and election of the 2023 board vice president. At this time, I'd like to request nominations for board vice president.
I'd like to nominate Kristen Bedford as board vice president.
Second.
That was quick.
Want to make sure you're in.
Okay, at this time, the nominations, I'd like to request that they be closed. And Mr. Kiffer, can you poll the board?
Yes.
Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Congratulations.
And I would just like to go on record that this is the first time, as far back as we have found, that Streetsboro City Schools has a female leadership team in president and vice president seats. So,
Yeah, you raise your hand. Go ahead, you raise it. Yeah.
This Constitution. Of the
You're good.
that's it.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Madam President, may I just add to what you said about the leadership team? I think we have a great leadership team in our president and vice president. You guys have done wonderful jobs as board members, and good luck this year.
Thank you. And we're very fortunate to have you all as well on our board that have served in these positions, and I'm sure that we will be contacting you for assistance as needed. So we appreciate that. Good?
Yep.
Okay, off we go. All right, item number 3. It is recommended that during calendar year, this is for regular board meeting dates and times. It is recommended that during calendar year 2023, the Board of Education hold its regular meeting on the second Thursday of each month at 5:45 p.m. in accordance with the following schedule, and that's listed on the agenda. We are changing the time from 5:30 to 5:45.
Second.
Mr. Kiffer, call the roll. Or any comments?
Just one. I asked that the meeting on the 9th be moved to a different location, March 9th, due to a rental in this facility that evening. So that's why it's at a different location. Okay? Thank you.
Got it. Mr. Kiffer, you call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Okay, item B, it is recommended, this is regular fiscal year end financial meeting. It is recommended that during calendar year 2023, the Board of Education hold its regular fiscal year end financial meeting at the Technology House in accordance with the following schedule, which is listed as Thursday, June 29th at 8 a.m.
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? Hearing no comments, Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Item number C, it is recommended, this is Finance Committee meetings. It is recommended that during calendar year 2023, the Board of Education hold its 4 Finance Committee meetings at the Technology House in accordance with the following schedule. Monday, January 23rd, Monday, April 24th, Monday, July 24th, and Monday, October 23rd, all at 5:45 p.m.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second? Any comments?
Yes, if you know any businessmen or women or people interested in the finances of a school district, they're more than welcome to join the Finance Committee.
Okay. Mr. Kiffer, you call the roll?
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. Moving on to item D. Organizational business. Order of business. It is recommended that during calendar year 2023, the Board of Education follow the order of business listed below. It is in your agenda. I'm not going to read every item.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a move and a second. Any comments? Okay, Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item F, regarding board member compensation. It is recommended that the Board of Education members be compensated to attend meetings and attendance of professional development activities in accordance with Resolution 2003-1-6 as adopted at the 2003 organizational meeting. Policy 1.08 was amended at the August 10th, 2017 regular board meeting.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, call the roll. Please.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Okay.
Mrs. Campbell,
Did I miss something?
letter E.
I'm on E.
No, you just did F. You did not
Oops.
do E.
We're going to go back.
Yes.
Okay. It's a good thing I know how to read. All right, going back to item E, board liaisons to the superintendent, treasurer, and chief business officer. It is recommended that the following will be the board liaisons to the superintendent, treasurer, and chief business officer for 2023 with membership listed below.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Any comments? Okay, Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Okay, back on track now. G, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Organizational Business Service Fund. It is recommended that the Board of Education establish a service fund for 2023 in the amount of $10,000.
I'll move.
Second?
Okay, we have a first and a second. Are there any comments?
If Mr. Kiffer could just explain to the general public what that
Yep.
service
Yeah.
fund is for.
A service fund is, it's Ohio Revised Code based, and it has to be a certain amount, and this is basically for the board. These are funds for professional development for the board. Originally, sometimes it's confused with the $10,000 of the internal underground
At
tank.
Streetsboro
But
High
the
School.
service fund is for the board,
This-
for basically professional developments, training, something like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you can call the roll.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. And moving on to item H, Ohio School Board Association membership. It is recommended the Board of Education renew its membership in the Ohio School Board Association for calendar year 2023, marking the board's 67th consecutive year of membership.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Motion approved. Moving on to item I, Ohio School Board Association Legal Assistance Fund. It is recommended that the Board of Education participate in the Ohio School Board Association Legal Assistance Fund for calendar year 2023.
Move.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments?
Yes, this is not a lot of cash. It's $250 for this legal assistance fund.
And Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Motion approved. Going on to item J, Ohio School Board Association Legislative Liaison. It is recommended that Robert Fulton serve as the board's official legislative liaison for calendar year 2023.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Okay, motion approved. Going on to item K, Ohio School Board Association Academic Achievement Liaison. It is recommended that Mr. Robert Fulton serve as the board's official academic liaison for calendar year 2023.
I'll move.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Motion approved. Moving on to item L, Ohio Schools Council membership and OSC governance policy change resolution. It is recommended that Streetsboro City School District participate as a member of the Ohio Schools Council and approve the OSC governance policy change resolution.
I'll move.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Motion approved. Item M, Tax Incentive Review Council. It is recommended that Kristen Bedford serve as the board's official representative to the Streetsboro Tax Incentive Review Council for calendar year 2023.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Motion approved. Moving on to item N, correct?
Correct.
Okay. For everybody who's following along, making sure we're paying attention. Designation of legal counsel. It is recommended that the Board of Education designate the following firms or their successors or assigns as legal counsel for calendar year 2023 on an as-needed basis by the board, superintendent, treasurer, and/or chief business officer.
I'll move.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item O, standing authorizations. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt the following standing authorizations to allow for the efficient management and full execution of duties as set forth below. There are a list of items there for your review.
Most, second?
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Motion approved. And item number 4, adjournment. Motion to approve the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Adjourn, not approve, adjourn.
You know.
Having a day. First and a second? Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Grimm,
Yes.
Mr. Violi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford,
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Fulton.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.
5:46.
Thanks. I have to pay attention now.
We getting a slow clap? A slow clap?
We need to do pictures, or are we doing them now or after? Got it.
Oh.
You guys picked a good meeting to come to.
I'm going to go get public comment.
Yeah, it's like right away.
Put your placards in. Bedford, put your
Then he has to go get the thing. That's all he's.
I didn't realize. Like, just like a flow.
Oh, I've done that times already.
Kristen doesn't want anyone to.
Does she have it basic?
I just
Did
wanted
you
to
have it
remind
basic?
myself.
You know,
That's amazing.
That's a sign of things to
We
come.
said we would do it. It
Listen.
wasn't going to be perfect.
Yeah, we said we were going to do it, but it was, we never said it was going to be perfect.
That was so funny. Yeah.
Minutes later.
Listen, I messed up too. We're all good.
Again. Yeah, right.
I would have lost.
All right. Are we ready?
I would have.
Exactly.
And we don't have to
Take so much pressure
since we already did
We do
it.
not.
No, if you want to, you can.
I think we don't have to. If we already did it, right?
Just say that we've
I
already.
will. I will do that. Okay. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to call the Streetsboro City Schools regular board meeting to order, January 12th, 2023 at 5:48 p.m. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Bedford?
Here.
Mrs. Campbell,
Here.
Mr. Fulton,
Here.
Mr. Grimm,
Here.
Mr. Violi.
Here.
Item 1B, we are going to refrain from doing the Pledge of Allegiance because we just did it in our organizational meeting. So we're going to move on to item C, which is public comments. Mr. Kiffer, do we have any public comments this evening?
Yes, we have one public comment this evening from Chrissy Mutz.
Okay, great. So I just want to remind everyone that the community comments are a way for citizens to communicate with the Board of Education. When your name is called, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and topic. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Remember, this is a formal and official meeting of the Board of Education, and what you say becomes part of official meeting record. If your comment involves a problem with a student, employee, or board member, please do not identify them by name. Keep in mind, we are meeting in a schoolhouse and in the presence of students. At this time, the primary role of the Board of Education is to listen and reflect on what is said. Sometimes we may respond or ask questions, but not always. Whether or not we respond, your input is valued. It's all you, Chrissy.
Okay. Hello, my name is Chrissy. To those that do not know me, I am a Special Olympic athlete from Statesboro, Ohio. I have been in Special Olympics since I was 8 years old. I have competed in speed skating, figure skating, volleyball, swimming. Special Olympics has had so many athletes like me who probably would never have attempted to participate in sport. Each sport has some unique challenges that I had to learn to overcome. It was not so easy. I was determined to do my best. With the help of some awesome Special Olympic coaches and volunteers who believed in me and lots of patience, I have come a long way. Without Special Olympics, I would never have come the chance to participate in sport. As athletes, we benefit so much more than just the sports side. We learn too much. Being on time, listening skills, phone dressing, and good sportsmanship. All these lessons help us in our everyday life and our job. on February 25th, 2023, I will once again be plunging into the freezing waters of Lake Erie, which is also my 14th year of doing the pole plunge challenge to benefit Special Olympic athletes. I will take the plunge with my team Fortis, Green and Bears. It is not easy to go into the icy waters. The reason I do it is to give back so others like myself have a chance to participate in such events. I need your help. I am willing to do the freezing. If you would please donate, any amount is appreciated, and every dollar donated makes a difference. No amount is too small. The money that is raised will stay here with our local Special Olympic athletes. You may donate in several ways. You may send a check to Special Olympics in care of Chrissy Mouse, 825 David Drive, Pittsburgh, Ohio, 44241, or you may donate directly online by entering the link that I'm gonna give each one of you, which will take you to my plunge page. You will need to click on the blue donate button and enter your amount and the information, and then you select give now. Together, we can make the difference.
Thank you, Chrissy.
It's much easier to donate than go in the water.
It is much easier.
He did.
I did sign up for.
Did you sign up for this year?
Yes, I did. February 25th. Yes, I did.
Send us your page too, so we can make donations on that one.
I will send that. Yes.
If they happen to have a summer polar plunge, I'm in. August.
I will say it was
much.
it's an amazing experience seeing the groups and all the athletes, and I can tell you that it's very cold, very cold. But for Chrissy, she handles it like a champ, and Chrissy is very, very busy that morning. You can't even talk to her because she's a rock star, because everybody wants to talk to Chrissy.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 2, approval of minutes. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the minutes from December as submitted.
I'll move.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Item number 3, Prince Superintendent's report.
Thank you. I would like to begin by having all of our board members and administrators appear on the stage, do a positive reflection. For those of you in the audience, I committed this year to try and reboot our thoughts about public education, our thoughts about Streetsboro, and we're going to focus on the positive. So I've challenged every board member to bring to each board meeting a positive reflection, and I'm going to begin. And ironically, when I saw, actually Chrissy emailed me this week and said that she would like to speak tonight, and I thought, that's my positive reflection. And I've watched Chrissy do this. This is my 10th year as superintendent, and I've watched Chrissy do this for actually longer than 10 years, but as 10th year as a superintendent. And Chrissy is an example board and community of what it's like to be a Rocket. She is a result of our educational system here in Streetsboro. Her parents are both Streetsboro residents. They are both former and current Streetsboro staff members. And Chrissy is an example of what a true Rocket is. So Chrissy, thank you for everything that you do. Thanks for raising money for students so they can have the same experiences that you have. And fun fact, Christy, someone may or may not have sent this picture of you and your dad and Mr. Kiffer out to the entire school district today. So I don't know who would have done something like that, but it may have gone out today. So that's my positive reflection.
Excellent. And Mr. Grimm?
Mine, I can't compare to Chrissy, but I'll say what I need to. My positive reflection is our ongoing partnerships between the school district, the fire department, the police department, the county emergency management agency, and so many other different people within the school district that are working to keep our schools safe. Every school year, every month, every day, things get better. And you know, we're trying to work on a partnership now with the county emergency management for some other activities later this year. But yeah, another shout out to our operations team where they try to get the staff members to look at situations differently, not just the same old way. And I see that they're doing that. They're participating. They're accepting it, which is great. And when it comes to preparedness and hopefully being prepared for what we never want to happen around this school district, I think we're well prepared, and there's always room for improvement. And I just, first of all, thank everybody for their participation, and thanks for always wanting to be involved.
Excellent. Mr. Fulton?
Thank all those that are in charge of the safety throughout this district. Noticed that flashing sign I'd done before, but I certainly noticed it tonight. It was flashing because it's dark enough. Appreciate that, walking across the walks and all that when it's pitch black. Nice to have that going on. Walking up to the treasurer's office today, that bridge going to the treasurer's office is really solid. I like that. It helps me walk so much better. I really appreciate it.
Great. Mr. Violi?
I don't know if it's, I guess this is definitely positive over the last couple of, heard me talk a lot about electronic sign. And I got a woohoo message today from one of my previous board members, because she read in the Courier, there was an article in there about Streetsboro could permit electronic message signs. Shows a picture of the sign at the center of the city, and talks a lot about how long it's been going on. I guess it's been almost a decade they've been working on sign ordinance. There's possibly only 13, 20 locations in that you would actually deploy one of these signs. So there are some restrictions, and I believe some of the restrictions were talked about years ago when we were building this. And I would just encourage us to, once this sign ordinance is completely passed, that we go out, try to get the largest. And no, but there's the reason I'm saying this: largest and the most, a sign that would offer us the most features according to the sign ordinance that's out there, not skimp on what back off of it. I want to go right to the limit, show the city that we will put something out there that's going to be level of expectation of their ordinance. So I just thought I'd mention that, and I want to thank the city for getting this moved along. And we had some council members, I think, that were earlier on hand, and you had some amendments to that sign ordinance already to kind of give us a little bit of it.
Great.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scarsapino?
So first, shout out to Joe Schuster, because he's the one that built the bridge to the treasurer's office there and made sure it was nice and sturdy prior to the winter. So that's a positive reflection right there. My positive reflection is one that gets overlooked often when we're up here talking. We're always talking about what's going on, teammates, people that might not be as visible, and I always make sure I do that. But today I want to do one with someone on stage. My positive reflection is Mr. Dahlbaugh. He doesn't get enough credit for the time, hours that he dedicates to this school district. I see it every single day. I work with him daily, and every single time him and I come together for difficult problems, we come up with solutions and move the district forward. And I appreciate that. I wouldn't want to work in any other environment. So thank you, Mr. Dahlbaugh.
Thanks, CJ.
Excellent. Mr. Kiffer.
Yeah, to echo Mr. Dawbaugh, I want to thank the Motts family. It was a pretty cool event last year, and I just signed up as soon as I got the email, so I'm excited to be there on the 25th of February.
And Bedford.
Yeah, I was trying to find the tweet. Mr. TV Pod had tweeted out, I think it was middle of this week or maybe it was last week, there were 2 students that stayed after a basketball game because they saw trash in our stands. I couldn't find it quick enough, but I just wanted to make, those 2 are what I consider, rockets. People that go above and beyond, stay a couple minutes after everybody else has filed out to pick up some trash and to keep our facilities clean. So I don't know if you found it or not, but I was trying to find their names.
Yeah,
I know.
my phone
I
is
was trying
frozen
to find their names too,
Those are
but
good. Those are great kids.
yes.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
No,
So I'm
that's
glad
great.
he did that. He took time out of his day to recognize them, and I hope we have more. I know we have more kids like that out there. So kudos to them.
And then for my positive reflection, with the holidays, we've had a lot of opportunity to see kids. I have a almost 25-year-old and 20-year-old that were Streetsboro graduates, and we see kids that have come home for the holidays, or you run into people, and the kids that have graduated from our school district are off doing such amazing things that without the solid foundation that our district has provided them, they would not be as successful as they are. So that is a testament to what we have going on here, from administration to everything else. So, okay. Anything else, Mr. Dolba?
For those of you in the audience who are here for a board meeting, you're lucky because this is the shortest report I've ever had. So, Mrs. Campbell, this concludes my report.
Okay.
They picked a good one then.
Yeah,
They picked a really good one.
They did.
They were sweating it because they were like, we have 2 meetings tonight. Okay, moving on to treasurer's report. Mr. Kiffer.
They should really come in May and November.
That 5-year.
Too late for the grade, though, then.
Yeah, that's true. I will be quick. December and January, actually, it's okay. I don't need it. December and January are the biggest months where we see the least, but we spend a lot. And so we have revenues in December of $500,000 roughly, and we had expenditures of $2.4 million. And so it's a monthly expenses exceeding revenues of $1.9 million. That is very large of a deficit. Now, $150,000 of that is brand new that we budgeted for. We've talked about it. We don't need to go back into it, but for the Fund 35, the transfer that the board authorized me to do last month went into effect in December. So $150,000 of that is that. And so we have a cash balance in the general fund of $8 million. And then for your recommendations today, this is a part of the reason why we have an organizational meeting, because for a fun fact that it has to be before January 15th, because that is when the tax budget is due to various counties in Ohio, all I think 55 counties. So I create one for Portage, and I know I talk a lot, it's standard Ohio Revised Code. It has to be by the 15th day of January for school districts. And I talk a lot about the general fund. That's the big fund that everybody's paid out. Most everybody's paid out of that fund. But the alternative tax budget, it kind of gives some oversight to the school district by the Portage County, who collects the revenues, who helps authorize me to disperse funds as well. So I give information and almost like a mini forecast for the general fund and all other funds of the district. And that really helps, even though we're here in January of 2023, in fiscal year 2023, what you'll be voting for is already me looking forward to fiscal year 2024, starting in July. So you'll see that to vote upon today. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Going way too smooth tonight.
Another record.
Moving
What
on.
is happening? I've never
I
seen a
know.
report that short for you.
See what happens when I become
Jeez.
president of the board. Chop, chop.
Chop, chop, chop.
Chop, chop. Chief Business Officer report.
Let's see if I could
Listen, you have
Make a-
2.5 minutes.
have a long report here. Just a few items. Tonight, we'll be asking for a few approvals from you, so I just wanted to go over those briefly. We have a facilities agreement on the agenda with Surge Dance Company to rent out the facilities here at the high school on May 26th and 27th. And that will be on the agenda for your vote tonight, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. We also, that weekend, will be having at the middle school Mr. Caputo's Powerhouse Gym's bodybuilding competition as well. So that'll be a busy weekend here and week with graduation on the front end of the week. Good times. Also this evening, we're going to be recommending some trade-ins of buses. That process went through Rush, which then reached out to all of their vendors and got the best pricing for us on that. So 7 buses to be traded in. You can see the years and mileage and what we're going to get for those buses. Those buses are currently not in use, and when we get all of our new buses in, we won't have room on the lot for all of those as well. So it's best if we move on from those buses. As you can see, like 98 is the oldest and 2009 is the newest that we're
Bus
asking.
13, is that one on all the white smoke all over the city?
Probably, if I had to guess. So don't get Andreas up here talking about buses. I heard him say no in the back. We'll be here for 3 hours.
Keep moving along.
Yes.
Keep moving along.
So we're going to ask for your approval to trade those in so we can get moving on the new ones, and they will come, tow them, and get them out of here very soon, as soon as we have approval.
Is that typical? I mean, that pricing, is that pretty good that we're getting?
So
Seems like low for a bus.
yeah,
but-
so it's not, you're not going to get a ton, no matter what.
Okay.
Even if you go to auction, you're subject to whatever that is, and maybe 3,500 you'll get in an auction potentially. But at this point, I cannot recommend going the auction route for a
Okay.
lot of reasons. But it's never a lot of money. If you look back on the past, when the board has traded in buses, it's been like 1,500, 1,700, 1,600,
Okay.
maybe 2,000. Andreas was shocked because the last time we tried to do this, we were offered like 800, 400. So when he saw those numbers, he was like, whoa,
We'll
we
take
hit the
it.
lottery this time. So
Okay.
And
Thank you.
CJ, just to tag on to what CJ is saying too, is the one time we did take buses to auction, that was when I was interim getting ready to become superintendent. Typically, we keep the batteries and then we try to keep the tires that are in better shape. So what our mechanics actually had to do was actually had to drive the buses to the auction site. They had to take the batteries out. They had to swap out tires and put tires on them that were not. And
Right.
by the time you did all
Costs us
that and
money,
pay your
yeah.
mechanics overtime, that almost makes up for the difference. And when I was shocked when I saw these prices too, I couldn't believe that we're getting that much out of them. And a lot of them, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of them have quite a bit of rust on them. They're
yeah,
rust buckets because buses rust quickly because of salt.
Sure.
And it's thinner metal. And-
correct. And ours are outside all year. We don't have like
Yep.
a warehouse to house them. So
Yep.
Okay.
do
Thank
the
you.
best we can.
I trust you. I'm just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Yes. Good question. And then the last item, unless there's any other questions about buses? Okay. Our copy lease is up, so we need to approve new ones. So what we had done in the past, we had MCPC, and you can see a chart down there with all the comparisons of what took place. We got rid of MCPC in 2019 on a deal that Andreas and I negotiated with Lake Business Products. We continued that negotiation into this year. What I asked them during negotiations was, we're on a fiscal year, and it makes sense, like when we put new copy machines in, to do it over the summer instead of trying to do it over winter break, which was the cycle that we were on. So I asked to negotiate a 6-month deal because our contract expired December 31st. So from January 1 to June 30, and then a new deal starting July 1. So the first one is a 6-month deal that I'm going to ask for approval from January to June. And as you can see, we negotiated that rate to be half of what we currently pay for the next 6 months, which will be over $11,000 in savings to the general fund that Kyle had already budgeted because he thought that that was going to be the price all year on that. We successfully negotiated the same price per copy both black and white and color that we negotiated the first time, which was significantly lower than our lease with MCPC at the time. That one took a little bit of time to get through with them, but we got there and we're there. And then the lease moving forward would be from July 1 and then for 3 years from there. Installation would take place in the summer because we're going to get new equipment because the equipment that we have is 3 years old. So it's time for a little bit of an upgrade. And you can see that that price went down almost $1,000 per month as well in that. So we'll be recommending Lake Business Products on a copy contract this evening.
Excellent. Thank you for your work on that.
Yep, absolutely. It's not just me. Andreas is a part of that too.
Yes,
And we
thank you.
troubleshoot and try to figure out what we can tolerate, what we can get rid of on machines, what we can't, what machines, do the most, and we need to have the better ones there, and which machines we don't use at all, and take those out to continually try to drive the best pricing and be the most efficient and effective that we can.
Well, I'm glad to hear that we'll have new equipment because, as you know, we make so many copies that
Yep.
the equipment starts to run down.
Yes.
So
And that will happen in the summer. It won't happen
Yep.
now. We'll have the same machines right now until the end of the year, or until the end of the fiscal year, and then the new ones will come. If there's
That it?
no questions.
Any questions?
Also, in your report, there's the food service report at the bottom there for the month, so you might want to check that out. If there's no other questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving on to item D, board reports. Kristen Bedford.
I didn't receive anything, but I will say, I can speak to basketball because I was there. Our programs, the boys and girls program, we made a clean sweep of Norton. And I do want to highlight the girls. They snapped a 74-game Metro winning streak that Norton had of league wins. And so our varsity girls snapped that on Monday night. So very, very proud of them, the team, the coach, assistant coaches. It was really fun to be a part of. So congratulations to them.
Excellent. Thank you. I will report on the Educational Foundation. We are meeting again in January, and I'll have more to report after that meeting. Regarding PTA, PTA hosted the 10th Annual Holiday Connection in December, and it was a huge success. They would like to thank the school community for their support. In December, the PTA arranged awards for over 400 students through the local Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen has been an awesome community partner, and they're always willing to donate for the kids. They are going to be hosting a end-of-the-year DQ competition where each week one of the schools participates in a Dine to Donate. They will be asking board members to attend and be involved at these events, so I'll let you know what those dates are. And this will likely take place end of April, early May. PTA coordinated breakfast, lunches, and hot cocoa bars across the buildings in December. They have a upcoming Kalahari fundraiser, will happen in February and June. Links to book are on their homepage. And they have an upcoming spring flower sale that begins February 27th. Let's see, a couple more. PTA VP Melissa Trimmer, DEFR VP, is facilitating a revamp of DEFR's Zen Den. Once it's done, they'll have a grand reopening. And to date, they have granted more than $500 of teacher requests, including items like indoor recess supplies, STEM activities, measurement, and word study manipulative. That completes my report. Moving on to Mr. Fulton.
Academic update at this time. The winter MAP MAPS tests in reading and math for grades K through 10 were recently completed. Grade level teams at the elementary school took a deep look at the collected data with Leah Travis, consultant with our Educational Service Center. During our January 2nd Professional Development Day, across the district will be using a portion of the next collaboration day to analyze the growth data as well. Level of planning is designated to target specific learning needs as the teacher teams prepare for high-stakes state tests and end-of-course exams scheduled for the spring. Preliminary results of these MAP tests are overall positive, although the data shows specific target areas for improvement in mathematics. 6 of the 8 grade levels met or exceeded their projected growth targets. 4 grade levels met or exceeded projected growth targets in reading. Many of our elementary reading teachers, coaches, and administrators were invited to Green local schools to observe the implementation of their language arts curriculum. These grade level specific visits are designed to help in the decision-making process for our curriculum resource study currently underway. Curriculum adoption will take place this spring, will be funded in part using the federal pandemic relief grant funding. New Tier 1 curriculum resource is a necessary component to meet the new dyslexia legislation and ultimately improve overall reading abilities critical for academic success. So in regards to the legislative, I think it's still pending in regards to superintendent. Whoever that would be hasn't been appointed officially yet. Still going with President. Sure what's happening with the State Board of Education because changing it. Set up.
Thank you, Mr. Fulton. Moving on to Kevin Grimm.
We got more than a few notes for the band. They've been busy.
They have been.
Middle school band, jazz band practice resumes at the end of the month, January 24th. The middle school band is preparing for the March 8th Festival of Bands. Professor Nancy Dittmer, a former president of the National Association for Music Education and former director at the College of Wooster, will join the middle school band in February to offer some assistance as the students prepare for the Festival of Bands, which will also see our high school band participating. 7 middle school band students will be participating in the Ohio Music Education Association District 6 Junior High Honor Band. Those students are Olivia DeToro on bass clarinet, Max Gage on baritone, Lola Maglianico on clarinet, Bryce Miller on trombone, Logan Sadowski on bassoon, Gabriella Salier on clarinet, and Justin Schmidt on alto saxophone. Jazz band rehearsals at the high school are ongoing twice a week. On January 21st, several high school band students will participate in a solo and ensemble contest that'll be going on throughout the day at Firestone High School. Not only are they preparing for the Festival of Bands in March also, they are also preparing for the Ohio Music Education Association large group adjudicated event that will take place over 2 days in March at Medina High School. This judged event involves students playing a selection of music, which is usually a more difficult selection than what they normally play, in the presence of a judge. And a little bit after their performance is over, the judge will issue a rating. And those ratings go from a rating of 5, which is poor, up to a rating of 1, which is superior. Normally, when I went to these with my kids, Streetsboro band students, both middle and high school, traditionally receive 1 and 2 ratings, so either superior or excellent. And it's because they're well prepared and they take a lot of pride in being a musician. These adjudicated events are a pretty big deal. They show the further commitment of the students. There are entry fees that they usually have to pay themselves, along with getting an accompanist if needed. So if someone needs to have someone there to play the piano, they have to find that person, and if they charge a fee, the student's responsible generally for paying that as well. So it's very important, and they really take it seriously. So good luck to everybody, and congratulations to the 7 students chosen for the honor band. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Violi.
I have no
Literally,
You had to get that shot in, didn't you?
in meeting. Okay. Moving on to item number 4, consent agenda items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve consent agenda items B through H.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Are there any comments? The only comment I would like to make is there are 2 donations on the donation list, and I would just like to thank both AT&T and the anonymous donor who donated to the WSTB Radio Fund. And there are no comments. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Motion approved. Item number 5, superintendent's recommendations.
Thank you. I have 2. Item A, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the following employees for FMLA.
I'll move.
Second?
Any comments? Hearing no comments, Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Abstain.
Item B, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the memorandum of understanding with the SSSPA for a staff member as shown in the attachment.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton? Mr. Violi?
Abstain.
That concludes my recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Dolbaugh. Moving on to treasurer's recommendations.
Yes. Item A, amended appropriations for fiscal year 23. It is recommended the Board of Education approve amended appropriations for fiscal year 23, and the estimated resources will be adjusted as needed for permanent appropriations.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, Mr. Kiffer?
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton? Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Fiscal year 2024 alternative tax budget. It's item B. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the alternative tax budget for fiscal year 24 as attached and authorize the treasurer to file the document with the Portage County Budget Commission.
I'll move.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, Kiffer?
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton? Mr. Violi?
Yes.
That concludes my recommendations. Yes.
Okay. Moving on to Chief Business Officer's recommendations. The longest list on the agenda.
Thank you, Mrs. Campbell.
You're welcome, Mr. Scarsafino.
So much I want to say. All right. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the facility rental agreement between Streetsboro City School District's Board of Education and Surge Dance Complex as shown in the attachment.
I'll move.
Second?
Yes. We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none? Oh,
I just wanted to say, good job with Operations Department for opening up our schools to the community, but making it fair for them and us.
I agree.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, 100%. Mr. Kiffer?
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My second recommendation. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the contract between Lake Business Products and Streetsboro City Schools for a 6-month copier lease from January 23 to June 23.
I'll second.
The first and a second. Any comments?
Comment, keep saving us. I like seeing that
You got it.
savings line building up there.
You got it. That's just on a copy contract.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I agree. No additional comments, Mr. Kiffer?
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
All right, thank you. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the contract between Lake Business Products and Streetsboro City Schools for copier service.
I'll move.
I'll second. The first and a second. Any comments?
This is the contract to begin in July and go for 3 years.
I just want to once again thank you for your work, not just with these contracts, but all of them in negotiating.
Thank you.
No additional comments. Mr. Kiffer, you can call the roll.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
And my final recommendation of the evening, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the trade-in of 7 buses to Rush Truck Centers of Ohio as follows, and they're listed below: Bus 7, Bus 13, Bus 31, Bus 32, Bus 33, Bus 34, Bus 35.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments?
President Alba did not comment about tiny homes.
Thanks, Mr. Violi.
Okay. Mr. Kiffer, will you call the roll?
Gladly. Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
That concludes my recommendations. Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Chicken coops.
Chicken coop, okay. Moving on, new business. Do we have any new business? Do we have any old business? We all look at Mr. Violi. You good?
I said what I needed to say.
Just checking.
I wasn't sure if I was going to have to pick the mic back up.
Okay. Moving on to item number 10, Board President's recommendation for executive session. It is recommended the Board of Education enter into executive session to consider the discipline of a public employee or official, preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, to discuss matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or regulations or state statutes, and to discuss details relative to security arrangements and emergency response protocols for a public body or public office, if disclosure of the matters discussed could reasonably be expected to jeopardize the security of the public body or public office, with possible action to follow.
Motion to approve.
A first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. Mr. Kiffer?
Mr. Grimm,
Yes.
Mr. Violi, Mrs. Bedford,
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Fulton.
Motion carries. We are now in executive session at 6:27 PM. Quickest two board meetings ever.
39 minutes. Good job.
39 minutes.
Get to Ravenna.
Thank God I know how to read. It's like reading.